Well, good evening, everybody, and a very warm welcome to the Thornhill and District Rotary Club Virtual Burns Night. For those of you I've not met before, my name is Iain Baker, and I'm your host tonight. Rotary International, of which we are a part, is about fellowship and helping others. Tonight, we are raising funds for Macmillan Cancer Support, which helps all those affected by cancer. Not only patients, but family, friends, the nurses, and the doctors. And I'm very pleased to say that we have Claire Drummond with us tonight. Claire manages the excellent Macmillan team at our local Dumfries Galloway Royal Infirmary. We are also raising funds for some local charities tonight. We are also very grateful for the help and support of Brian and Karen Gibson, who run TB Watson's in Dumfries. They have helped us to provide the drams of the Isle of Arran malt whisky, which I hope most of you, if not all of you, have to hand. That's the little miniatures. Well, to get our evening off to a flying start, I'm very pleased to introduce Claire Hastings, a young lady originally from Thornhill, but now based in Glasgow, who has supported us in several times before. Like all of you, I am looking forward to hearing her songs and music tonight. And so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, may I please welcome Claire Hastings.
Thanks very much, Iain. Good evening, everyone. I'm delighted to be a part of this very unusual, very modern Burns supper. And yeah, I'm going to start with a song that is known as Composed in August or Westland Winds. And it's quite often sung to a different tune than this, but this is a melody that I got from Rod Patterson. Okay, here we go. This is Westland Winds. Now westland winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant weather. The moorcock springs on wedding wings among the blooming heather. Now waving grain wide o'er the plain delights the weary farmer. The moon shines bright as I rove at night to muse upon my charmer. The partridge loves the fruitful fells, the plover loves the mountains, the woodcock haunts the lonely dells, the soaring hern the fountains. Through lofty groves the cushat roves, the path of man to Shannet. The hazel bush o'erhangs the thrush, the spreading thorn the linnet. Thus every kind their pleasure find, the savage and the tender. Some social join and leads combine, some solitary wander. Avant away the cruel sway, tyrannic man's dominion, the sportsman's joy, the martyring cry, the flaunting gory pinion. But Peggy dear, the evening's clear, thick flies the skimming swallow. The sky is blue, the fields in view, all fading green and yellow. Come, let us stray our gladsome way and view the charms of nature. The rustling corn, the fruited thorn, and every happy creature. We'll gently walk and sweetly talk till the silent moon shines clearly. I'll grasp thy waist and fondly pressed swear how I love thee dearly. Not vernal showers to budding flowers, not autumn to the farmer, so dear can be as thou to me, my fair, my lovely charmer. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claire. Thank you for an excellent start to our proceedings, and we look forward to hearing from you again a little later on. Now, Willie Dick is known to most of us as also one of the best speakers on Robert Burns, his life and his work. Willie has now retired from dairy farming, but he still lives near Kilmarnock. He was telling me recently that in his spare time before the lockdown, he was often down in the Amosfield area, that's a bit north of Dumfries, helping his son with game birds. I'm sure he also meant pheasants and grouse. But anyway, it gives me great pleasure to ask Willie to give us the Immortal Memory.
Thank you very much, Iain, Mr. Chairman. Just a wee drink to get going. Oh, what a great introduction that was. Hey, that was something else. In fact, that was that good an introduction. I'm even looking for it myself just to hear myself speak. So, that's brilliant. Can you still see me? Aye, that's unfortunate. It's been great here, just even tuning in and watching the rest of you eat your dinner. That's been absolutely amazing tonight, so it is. I didn't ken you were going to have that many different things in show. And it's great to be asked along here tonight. What a great honour it is to be asked by Thornhill and District Rotary Club, and I thank you most sincerely for that. Again, I'll just speak away in my Scots tongue. There'll be no different. Well, I say I'm going to speak away in my Scots tongue. I've actually no idea how this is going to go tonight. But remember the last Burn Supper I was at, way back in March, so it was the last Burn Supper I was at a wee place just the other side of Kilmarnock called Hurlford. And I just pulled in with the corn, I just get parked. And this fella comes up to me and he says, "Oh, what's your car for a tenner?" I said, "No, you will not, Constable." Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it's a rough place, but you just never can. But what a year it's been. It's been like no other. And here to have a Zoom Burn Supper, it's unbelievable. In fact, you remember that lassie at the Skill that said she would never get out with you unless the world was ending? Well, Bobby Jess, this might be the year just to phone her. Iain, thank you for your very kind introduction. Fantastic. And I've been asking for a wee bit of information about Iain, and here it turns out that Iain was selling his car. And Willie Walk was looking for a new car. Aye, Mr. Scattercash's self-Isanka. So they went and had a look. And he says, "I'll tell you what I'll do, Iain," he says. I'll give you £7,500 for your car, less 16%. And Iain went, wait a minute. I'll get back to you, Wally, I'll get back to you. And Iain was up the street in Sankara walking. Here did they no run into Jill Dykes. He said, oh, Jill, if I gave you £7,500 less 16.5%, what would you take off? Jill says, oh, Iain, everything but my earrings. And it is great to be, but we've got a task in hand. As you can see, I'm one of the few folk that has made an effort with my hair tonight. The rest of you take note. Robert Burns. Robert Burns has been revered and celebrated all over the world. There are over 200 memorials to him all over the globe, and his words are now translated into our 41 languages. Burns remains celebrated and popular even now, 225 years after his death, quite simply by the will of the people, not only in Scotland, but where Scots have been forced to emigrate to places like Australia, New Zealand, North America, and Canada. As Burns wrote, they're up among the lakes and seas, oh, mark what laws and rules they please. Some daring Hancock or a Franklin would set their Highland blood a rankling. But also in diverse places like Alaska, Argentina, Bangladesh, China, Russia, and even Kirkconnell. Suffice to say, he is honoured wherever his tender, moving philosophies find fertile ground among intelligent people. No other poet or writer in modern times has enjoyed such critical acclaim. All this for a young lad born in a Clybiggin in Alloway. As Robert himself described his birthplace, he was put up with his father, William Burness, in a 7.5 acre land purchased in 1756. Robert was born on Thursday, the 25th of January in 1759, and a few days later, just before daylight, part of the gable wall fell out, and the rest seemed so shattered that the poet and his mother had to be carried through the storm to a neighbour's house where they remained for a week while the cottage was being sorted. From there was a lad born in Kyle. Our monarch's Hinmish year began was 25 days begun. 'Twas then a blast o' January wind blew Hansel in and Robin. Thankfully, ladies and gentlemen, been in your own house tonight, you're out the blast o' January wind and no having to take that treacherous journey back home after a burn supper. I always get warned going to a burn supper to come home the same way as I go. So I usually fall out the door. Not only Robert was born here, but also Gilbert, Agnes, and Annabella. William, John, and Isabella was born at Mount Oliphant. But let me jump for it a wee bit to an 18-year-old Robert as he moves to Turboughton, just outside to Lochley Fern. And for the first 4 years he had contentment. He had food in his belly and dry clothes in his back. And that was a big difference, let me tell you, than it was at Mount Oliphant. It was a wretched place to be. Robert was grown into a very sociable person and had many friends of both sexes. And he was turning into quite a ladies' man, as he was quite popular with the local lassies. His poetry was also maturing, and he often used local lassies' names in poems. There's Sophie Ticht, a lassie brick, beside a handsome fortune, We cannae win her in a night, his little Ayrton courting. There's few sae bonny, nane sae good in all King George's dominion. If ye should doubt the truth of this, it's Bessie's ain opinion. And let me tell you, the Boughton's lassies haven't changed much either. Even in this modern day, they still think they're like that. Lochley gave Burns a Lochlee. It's locally we call it Lochley, like Bolton, Boughton. Lochlee gave Burns far more opportunities for a social life, and he enrolled in the dancing class in order to brush up on his social skills and possibly make new acquaintances. The most popular meeting place in Boughton was John Richard's alehouse. The upstairs room was enlarged by knocking 2 rooms into one, making it the largest room in the village and probably the warmest too, as it had 2 open fireplaces. Because of its size, it served the important function of hosting meetings of local groups, and Robert Burns had at least 3 different links with this room. The dancing. Robert's father was strongly against him going to the dance lessons, but nevertheless, his father eventually relented and allowed some of his siblings to attend as well. Gilbert, Agnes, and Annabella. Aye, Burns relented. So he did. Burns now had 3 spies in the camp to keep an eye on him. I locked her in a fond embrace, my heart was beating rarely. My blessings on that happy place among the rigs o' barley. I hae been blithe with comrades dear, I hae been merry drinking, I hae been due for gathering gear, I hae been happy thinking. But all the pleasures ere I saw, though 3 times doubly fairly, that happiness was worth them all among the rigs of barley. Absolutely fantastic, just about a local lass. And local folklore tells us that Boughton gets its name from ancient pagan times. Boughton. And in pagan times, it was Tar, Bow, Ping. Tar means hill, Bow means of, and Ping is fire. So it was called Dar, Bow, Ping, was the hill of fire. In pagan times, they used to burn an offering at the top of Hood's Hill, a local landmark just outside the village. And travelling home for a meeting in the Bachelors Club one night, I'm pleased to report that the local young team have kept up that tradition when they were offering up a Ford Fiesta to the gods. As I said, Burns had 3 links: dancing, Freemasonry, and because it's thought that Burns joined the craft here, rising up to be Deputy Master of the Lodge in the Bachelors Club, where Burns and 6 others inaugurated one of Scotland's first rural debating societies. Robert Burns is also said to have learnt to play Williams Gregg fiddle, and you can hear this very fiddle being played on the 25th of January this year, when the Friends of Robert Burns Birthplace Museum are holding a Burns supper to be streamed live for the cottage. If you look up the Friends of Robert Burns, you'll get a link that will take you in. Burns heard it here, and that helped kindle his great love of music. And what a great way to be introduced tonight with music for Claire Hastings. Claire, you're sounding as great as ever, and looking as great too, so yeah. I remember being at a Burns supper one night, and somebody got up to sing a Burns song before we started, and there it was. I would walk 500 miles. Ah! Music that links Robert Burns with Newcomer in my hame tune. Oh, the airts the wind can blow, I dearly like the west. For there the bonny lassie lives, the lass that I loo best. Said to be written in his way through the parish in Newcomer, in his way to Ellisland at Dumfries. And local folklore tells us first sung at Sanker in Wigham's Inn. Burns was a cultural genius with both poems and songs, and how they thrill the heartstrings, to the breast. Or Parnassus Hill, or Course and Cone to the Newcomer boys. In my opinion, and Stephen Hasty's lightly fainted because I've mentioned Parnassus Hill. I expect he'll maybe get a wee mention. In my opinion, Parnassus Hill is Robert Burns' finest love stroke song poem. When you think of the story, Course and Cone, which stands above the River Nith, and it can be seen for Ellisland as well as for Mauchline, and was written for Jean Armour just a few months after they were married. Also, the reference to Parnassus was very significant to Burns. This was the mountain in Delphi in Dumfries, in Greece. It's maybe in Dumfries and all, which was the home of the Muses. And of course, I've got to mention it, Flow Gently, Sweet Afton. On the 5th of February in 1789, Burns wrote to Mrs. Dunlop, enclosing the poem Sweet Afton. This is one of the best known poems in which nature, animals and scenery are all featured. And it suggests they found this little place a gem and very peaceful and inspiring. It could have been just below the Lake Fern where Newcomer Burns Club Cairn now stands, and the cairn, or the plue at the cairn, was in the wee video you played just at the start there. So that was a great wee link in. As Burns wrote, there's a small river Afton that flows into the Nith near Newcomer, which has some charming, wild, romantic scenery in its banks. I have particular pleasure in those little pieces of poetry, such as our Scotch songs. Robert Burns has had many admirers over the years. The great Bob Dylan was inspired and thought My Love Is Like a Red, Red Rose was the perfect song. Another American, Abraham Lincoln, is said to have taken a Burns book everywhere he went and could recite from memory Burns's work. Lincoln's final reference to Burns came just days before his death. John Hay, Lincoln's secretary, recalled that they were sailing down the Potomac River and Lincoln recited several of Robert Burns' poems. Afterward, they turned to Hay and remarked that Burns never touched sentiment without carrying it to its ultimate expression and leaving nothing further to be said. And we heard from Claire at the start. Now westland winds and slaughtering guns bring autumn's pleasant weather. The moorcock springs and whirring wings among the blooming heather. Imagine being able to write that as a 16-year-old to a sweetheart, Margaret or Peggy Thomson, and yet encompass nature in all its glory. Robert Burns mentions nature a remarkable 2,880 times, unsurpassed by any poet then or since. Or even that great Burns song sung at the end of every Burns supper, All Lang Syne. A song that thrilled the very soul of Robert Burns and has become an anthem sung the world over. In 1788, Burns sent the song to the Scots Musical Museum, indicating that it was an ancient song, but that he had been the first to record it in paper. Auld Lang Syne roughly translates to old time's sake. And the song is all about preserving old friendships and looking back over the years. And when sung at the New Year, or in our case, at the end of a Burns supper, it reminds me of the immense pride and pleasure of being asked by your club to propose this toast tonight. And when we get to that verse, and there's the hand, my trusty friend, and gies the hand o' thine. That, ladies and gentlemen, is truly the immortal memory of the genius Robert Burns, uniting the room hand in hand, and in normal times standing with your true cronies beside you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been an absolute pleasure and a great honour for me to be asked to do this tonight. It's the first time I've ever done it with my shirt and tie on and just my underpants at a Burns supper, but you never know, it might catch on. The lad that Ince was born in Kyle was laid to rest in pompous style, and ere his grave they placed a screed that common people cannae read. But while the purple heather grows, and while the Afton water flows, each year, ladies and gentlemen, his honour we will propose the illustrious Robert Burns. Ladies and gentlemen, would you join in me in a toast to Robert Burns?
Robert Burns.
Thank you, Willie. Excellent as always. And it's always educational. I always learn something when you do the Immortal Memory, Willie. But it was amusing, thoughtful, and entertaining. And thank you once again. Now, Tracy Harvey is an Ayrshire lass who writes and performs poetry in the language of the Scots. For the past 20 years, she has worked in the health service, but in any spare time she gets, she is the Screiver, or that means the writer in residence at the Burns Museum in Alloway. I was very interested to discover some of her works online, and enjoyed reading it. But tonight I'm very pleased to be able to say we can see and hear her. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Tracy Harvey.
Hi. I'm just going to do a wee poem. Thanks for having me, and I've so enjoyed it so far. Claire, what a voice. It's absolutely amazing. An amazing voice. And Willie, I always enjoy Willie. And Willie likes this poem I'm going to do, although it always gives him a beamer. He's quite shy at heart, Willie, and this wee poem gives him a wee red face. And I'm glad to hear you're sitting there in your underpants, because that's just very fitting for this poem. And this poem's called Breeks, and it's about the different kinds of breeks a woman will wear through the course of her life, and how you can come back full circle at the end. Navy blue skill breeks, bocht at the co-op drapery, industrial strength elastic, away at the primary skill, hacked up like a washhouse spigot. Bra breeks, Christmas breeks, breeks adorned with bows, breeks for each day of the week. Toasty and terry towelling, richt up to your Oakster breeks, hod up your tights breeks, tuck in your summit breeks, fresh coating been out in the rope breeks. Hod me did, maybe no even your ain breeks. Drive you in the ben, had to pull them out your behookie when nobody's looking breeks. Ping the elastic breeks, breeks to let the air in, clean just in case you get knocked in, breeks. Big lassie breeks, match your bra breeks. High-legged breeks, breeks with nae VPL, lift your cheeks and make you look like Kim Kardashian breeks. in case I get lucky, breeks. Racy, lacy, toty wee breeks, one-piece bodysuit fastened between the legs breeks, French knickers to match my camisole top breeks, oh, right up the shock of my arse breeks. Pure white, butter wouldn't belt in my mouth, wadding night breeks, 10-year merit been to Ann Summers' party breeks, silky breeks, satin breeks, suspender breeks, G-string breeks, thong breeks, crotchless breeks, show off your sequin vajazzle breeks, match your furry handcuffs breeks, velcro fastening, rip them off with your teeth breeks, vibrating breeks you can eat. Thong higher than your low-slung jeans breeks, roll down inner your bump breeks, hod you in breeks, belly warmers, all the same colour of grey breeks, don't even think about it breeks, need 2 pegs to hang them out in the rope breeks, what's that stuck down the inside of my trouser leg? Oh no, it's yesterday's breeks. Hod up your tights breeks, tuck in your simmet breeks, tuck in your breasts breeks, a way to draw your pension happed up like a washhouse spigot breeks, a change of breeks, breeks for the hospital, bloomers. Thank you.
Tracy, thank you. That was magnificent. I'm sure we're all looking forward to your next piece a little later on this evening, but thank you in the meantime. As always, funny and thoughtful. Now, Stephen Hasty is someone I've known for quite a few years now, as he lives in the Royal Borough of Sanquhar with his very talented wife, Victoria, and family. Stephen is originally from New Cumnock and part of the strong Burns heritage of that area, and he's also the secretary of the Black Joanne Burns Club of Sanquhar. Stephen and I are also sometimes part of the same walking group, and we explore the hills above Nithsdale. I'm sure this area is very familiar, or would have been very familiar to Robert Burns. It is with great pleasure that I call upon Stephen to propose the toast to the Lassies.
Thank you, Iain. It's a great pleasure to be here. This is a unique first for me, certainly. It's the first time I've been at a Zoom or virtual Burns supper. It's also the first time I've been able to wear my New Cumnock Burns Club tie, my past president's badge, and my SpongeBob pyjama bottoms, all at the same time. So it's a great honour to be here this evening. And I think in these strangest of times, I mean, as Iain said, Willie, Dick and I are both from New Cumnock. And we can't imagine times when you can walk into a bank or a shop wearing a mask and not have the unresponse unit diving straight onto you. But as Iain said, I live here in the Royal Borough. And we both enjoy walking, as Iain said. And we were out a couple of weeks ago, and he was asking me for information on Tracy, because he knew I knew Tracy Harvey. And I says, and Willie Dick, he's my best pals. So if there's anything you need to know about Willie, you can just ask me. He says, oh no, I know Willie quite well. I met him a few years ago. I've known him for a good number of years now. I was still working as a doctor at the time. And he appeared in the surgery. And he came in and says, can I have a word with you, doctor? I wonder if you can help me. I think I'm turning into a moth. And Iain says, well, I don't think I can help you. I think it's a psychiatrist you need. But tell me, what made you come in here? He says, oh, I seen your light was on. But these are strange times, and they're taking their toll on people, and people are craving things that we used to take for granted, like going out for a drink, out for a meal, or going on holiday. And I was talking to Kate Thomson just before Christmas there. She's desperate for a holiday. She'd missed her summer holiday, her autumn holiday. She's retired now, probably missed her spring holiday as well. And she decided just before Christmas, her and her pals would go to London for a wee long weekend, bit of shopping, some nice meals, few drinks, just what they were needing, recharge their batteries. So there they were, going down Oxford Street. And here's this shop, the husband store. So Kate says, right, lassies, after the year we've had, we're going in there. So in they go, Kate and the Lassies, straight in. And in they troop into this shop, and this is how it works. There's 6 floors in this shop, and every floor is more expensive as the husband's credentials increase. So they get into floor 1. These men have jobs. Now, Tracy Harvey's walking legs, so she might have just stopped there. But Kate says, no, that's a start. But on we go. So up to floor 2. These men have jobs and they love kids. So Kate says, oh, yeah, that's a lot better, but you'd want a bit more than that. On to floor 3. These men have jobs, love kids, and they're very good looking. Oh, she says, oh, we're on the right track now. Let's keep going, lassies. So up they go, on to floor 4. These men have jobs, love kids, very good looking, and incredibly romantic. Oh, she says, this is getting exciting now, girls. Where's these stairs? So on they go, up onto floor 5. These men have jobs, love kids, incredibly good looking, unbearably romantic, and they make great lovers. Kate says, oh, this is the business, lassies. Well, let's get up to the top floor. So they bust onto floor 6, and there's nothing there. Just a wee sign that said, you're the 1 millionth visitor to this floor. There are no men on this floor. This floor exists solely as proof that women are impossible to please. Thank you for shopping at the husband's store. While Europe's eyes fixed in mighty things, the fatey empires and the fall of kings, while quacks of state must each produce his plan, and even children lisp the rights of man. Amid this mighty fuss, just let me mention, the rights of women merit some attention. I'm sure Robert Burns would approve of these modern women. But despite this equality, ladies and gentlemen, there's still some differences between the lads and the lassies, which we'll have to remember so we can get along much, much better. Like the toilet seat, ladies. Just learn how to work it. We need it up. You need it down. Just deal with it. And lassies, the next time you're dragging your husband or your boyfriend or both round B&Q or home base, picking a new colour scheme for the living room, remember, men can only see in 8 colours. Peach is a fruit, and magnolia is a plant. And if we ever get that chance to go on a long journey again, lassies, please remember, Christopher Columbus didn't need directions. Neither do we. Talking about driving now. Driving to my work last week, and this car veered across the road right in front of me, just in the Hollywood straight there. Who's this woman? She must have been doing 90 mile an hour, putting her makeup on. Well, I had to swerve the car to avoid her. I dropped my bacon roll. It fell in my coffee cup I had between my legs. It splashed all over me. And all over the racing post I had propped up in the steering wheel I was trying to clear up. I dropped my phone and I missed this important call I was making to my bookie. I'll tell you, women drivers. Ladies, you do have enough clothes and you do have enough shoes. I should maybe change that this year. You do have enough pyjamas and you do have enough slippers. And if we're running late for a virtual burn supper, absolutely anything you're wearing is fine. I mean, I shouldn't laugh. I've got Victoria there, as Iain mentioned her in the introduction. You know, she's my rock. She's very supportive of me. She offers me every bit of encouragement. And she's also currently my barber as well. But just tonight, I mean, I always get kind of nervous before these kind of things, and I just come out the shower, and as I say, I was feeling nervous, and I'm standing in front of the mirror, and I was looking, I'm 50 this year. My bodies know what it was. Look at my hair. It used to be thick and dark, and now it's receding and it's silver, and I used to have a 6-pack. Now that's away. I'm like a wee keg. And I think I'm getting the moobs, the man boobs that everybody talks about. Victoria said, look, Stephen, you're always the same before a burn supper. You need to think positively. I says, what have I got to be positive about? She says, your eyesight's perfect. But boys, it's time for a bit of advice for you now. Please remember, the lassies speak in a slightly different language for us. They use words and phrases that have got a totally different meaning for what we think of. Take, for example, the word fine. To you and me, that means okay. Did you have a good day at work, dear? Yes, it was fine, thanks. But if your wife or your girlfriend uses the word fine, that just means the argument is over, she is right, and you need to shut up. The word nothing. Don't get confused. That means something, and you need to be worried. For example, if you say, what's wrong with you? And she says, nothing. Worry. Go ahead. This is not a dare. It's not permission. Do not do it. Okay, if I go and meet the boys for a pint? Aye. Go ahead. That's okay. It's not really, boys. All she's doing is thinking long and hard how and when you will pay for your mistake. Thank you. It just means thank you. Accept it. Embrace it. However, thank you very much is totally different. Be afraid. And finally, wow. A simple word. A word I'm sure you've used many times as your better half comes down for a night out in all fine gear. Wow. But if they use the word wow, it is not a compliment. She's just amazed that one person could be so stupid. And they do think we're stupid, gentlemen. Take Tracy, for instance. Sadly, just before Christmas, Tracy was involved in a bad car crash. A head-on collision with another car. Both cars absolutely wrecked, total carnage. And miraculously, neither Tracy nor the man in the other car were hurt. Both totally unscathed. And they both dragged themselves out of the car and they're sitting there on the curb at the side of the road. And Tracy says, it's a miracle. Look at the carnage there on the road. Utter devastation. And both of us are sitting here at the side of the road, totally unhurt. And this guy says, I agree, absolutely amazing. And she says, look at this. I had a bottle of wine in my car. Everything in my car is totally wrecked. And this bottle of wine I had in my car is unbroken. All this devastation is still intact. It must be a sign for God that he wants us to sit here at the side of the road, share this wine, and toast our good fortune. And the guy says, you're right. So Tracy hands him the bottle. He takes the top off. And he takes a great big slug of this wine. Hands it back to Tracy. And Tracy puts the cork back in and sits it down. And the guy says, are you not joining me in the toast to our good fortune? She says, no, I'm just going to sit here and wait for the police. Now, can I just take this wee opportunity to thank Willie Dick for that absolutely excellent Immortal Memory. As always, fantastic, Willie. And as I said, him and I grew up in Newcombe and we're great pals as boys. And I can remember when him and Janice were just courting, just starting going out or winching, as they say in Ayrshire. In the early days, and things were just kind of moving on, and Willie's there this Saturday night. They got an empty room at Janice's, and everything was going well. Will was moving in there, but here he couldn't work the bra clasp. Fart about it just wasn't working, and he stomped out the house and away home in the huff. And he vows, next week I'll work that bra strap, it'll be no problem. So sure enough, all week, Willie practiced. They had it down to a fine art. He even could do it with one hand. Amazing. So there they are, the next Saturday. Him and Janice, another empty, he's away round to Janice's, bottle of Lambrusco, bag of Revels, wee romantic video for Video West. There they were on the couch, things are heating up. Same again. Willie couldn't work this bra clasp. Try again, off he stomps, away in the huff, and as he's walking home, that's when he realised his granny wore a different kind of bra for Janice. But ladies and gentlemen, the Lassies were a great inspiration to Burns throughout his short life. For his first poem, Handsome Nell, written at the age of 15 to Nellie Kirkpatrick, a bonny, sweet, sonsie lass to work down the coal blast, in his most poignant works, written for Jessie Lures, who nursed Burns on his deathbed. And Burns wrote some of the most beautiful love songs and poems ever penned, and we all have our favourites. The tenderness, fond kiss, the celebration of lifelong commitment of John Anderson, my Joe, or the pure romance of Red, Red Rose. But Burns was a very observant man and a very witty man. He was also very adept at writing about lassies who perhaps weren't just as pleasing to him. Like Pierre Willie Wassell's wife. She has an E, she has Iain. The cat has twa the very colour, 5 rusty teeth for by a stump, a clapper tongue with Diva Miller, a whisking beard about her moo, her nose and chin they threaten her. Sick a wife as Willie had. I wouldn't gie a button for her. And then there was the twa wives, and twa witty wives, as her played Hooch my Gandhi, and they cast out upon a time, out her a drink of brandy. Up Maggie Rose, and forth she goes, and she leaves all Mary flying, and she farted at the by her end, for she was going to shine. And she farted by the by her end, and she farted by the stable, and thick and nimble were her steps as fast as she was able, till at yon dyke back, the hully but raxing for some dokins. The beans and peas come down her thighs, and she cackett o' her stokins. Hardly a vision to melt the heart, gentlemen. But throughout his adult life, Burns did have one rock, one steady and influence in him, his Jean Armour. She'd support Burns through thick and thin, tolerating his behaviours, even to the extent she raised his illegitimate daughter, Anne Park, as her own, saying, "Our Robbie should have had 2 wives." And this mutual support still goes on to this day. My good pal Willie Walk there, merit for Burns was in Sankar, I think, him and Anne. And he was fair worried about Anne recently, I think, with the COVID stuff. They're normally very, very busy folk, but they've been stuck in the house, the same as everybody else, and it's been really getting to her. Anne was really doing the dumps. And he thought, I better do something to try and cheer her up. So obviously, couldn't take her on holiday, couldn't take her to a posh restaurant, or anything like that. So he says, again, I'll never, in all the years of merit, I've never bought her some sexy underwear. I'll do that. Something bit different, try and cheer her up. So off he slopes to Glasgow, up in the train, and he goes into the Anne Summer shop up there in Glasgow. And he says, Stevie, you'll not believe this. What an experience. It's a religious experience buying a bra. I says, how can buying a bra be a religious experience, Willie? Come on, that's stupid. He says, well, there's 3 types of bra. There's the Catholic bra. It gathers in the masses. And then we have the Salvation Army bra. It uplifts the fallen. And then there's the wee free bra. It makes mountains out of molehills. So anyway, Willie has a wee look round the shop and he decides on the style and the colour he would like. And the lassie says, that's perfect, sir. And what size is your wife? He says, oh, she's quite tall. She's about 5'6". She says, no, a bra size. What bra size is she? He says, oh, I've no idea. She says, been married all the years, you don't ken your wife's bra size. No. She says, you must have an inkling. He says, well, if I had to guess, I'd say she was a 15. A 15? She can't be a 15. What made you say she was a 15? He says, well, my heart's a 7.5, and it covers you in them. Gentlemen, we can all poke fun at the lassies, and we can moan about the lassies when we're out with the boys and at our work or whatever, but where would we be without them? The love, the support, the encouragement they give us throughout our lives. Well, I know I'd be a lesser man without it. And I'll leave you with the words Burns wrote for his Jean, inspired, as Willie mentioned in his Immortal Memory, travelling up from Dumfries back home to Mauchline. He came round the back of Corson Cone and hitting you coming up in this, would give him his first views of Ayrshire, where his gene was. So Corson Cone became his Parnassus Hill. Came to his gene. By night, by day, I feel at hame. The thoughts of thee, my breast in flame, and I amuse and sing thy name. I only live to love thee. Though I were doomed to wander on beyond the sea, beyond the sun, till my last weary sand was run, till then, and then, I'd love thee. Ladies and gentlemen, can I ask you to please stay safe in these difficult times? It seems to be getting worse rather than better, but so long as we've got nights like this, I hope that can keep us all happy. And finally, gentlemen, can I ask you all to join me in raising a glass to the lassies.
Aye, to the lassies.
The lassies. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you. Thank you once again for a very amusing, but again, very thoughtful and instructive evening. But I look forward to our next walk in the hills when we can have a further chat. Now, in these times of enforced isolation, as Stephen was just mentioning, we can enjoy using the internet, just as we were doing tonight, and remind ourselves of better times to come. I'm pleased to be able to ask Claire to give us another song. Claire.
Thank you very much. I hope you are all enjoying the evening as much as I am. Wonderful speakers this evening, as always. And I think there's some pros and cons to this Zoom Burns supper. We're not getting served the lovely dinner, but it's looking likely that we'll be in bed before midnight. So I'm taking that as a win. And I'm going to give you one of my favourite Burns songs now, and quite appropriate following on from Stephen's To the Lassies. So this is Green Grow the Rashes O, and feel free to join in at home because nobody can hear you. There's naught but care on every hand, and every hour that passes what signifies the life o' man, and 'twerna for the lasses green grow the ashes green grow the ashes the sweetest years that e'er I spend are spent among the lasses The worldly race may riches chase, and riches still may fly them all. And though at last they catch them fast, their hearts can ne'er enjoy them all. But give me a canny uratin, my arms about my dearie and worldly cares and worldly men may all get absoluterio. Green grow the ashes green grow the ashes the sweetest years that e'er I spend are spent among the lasses For ye say dus was needed this, you're naught but senseless asses The wisest man the world e'er saw, he dearly lured the lasses Green grow the ashes green grow the ashes the sweetest years that e'er I spend are spent among the lasses All nature swears the lovely dears her noblest work she classes her prentice hand she tried on man, and then she made the lasses spent among the lasses, oh. Green grow the rushes, oh, green grow the rushes, oh, the sweetest hours that e'er I spend are spent among the lasses, oh.
Thank you, Claire. Wonderful as ever. And I'm really pleased to tell you all that we will be coming back to Claire a little towards the end of our evening. Now, from song and music, we are now going back to the pleasure of the spoken word, and particularly in the Scots language. I like to mention sometimes that I do have an Ayrshire background. All my family on my mother's side is from the town of Golson, or Gosson, as I was told to say it when I was a wee boy. And my grandparents worked in the mills in Darvel and New Mills. So I can claim some Ayrshire heritage. Now, like Tracy, I worked in the health service. As Molly was saying, I used to be a GP in the area and still here after 40 years. So it just shows how much I enjoy living in this community. But when I was chatting to Tracy about our lives in the health service, and both of us agreed how important it was to listen and to observe those we tried to help. I know that Tracy has used her skills to create some very memorable words. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to ask Tracy to give her another piece of her work. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. They were lovely words. The next poem I'm going to do is one about two lassies, two women, Betty and Leanne. And Betty is the older woman, and what we would do for a neighbour like that. I had a neighbour like that, and especially at times like this, that's exactly what you need. So this is called Betty and Leanne. Leanne flitted into a flat in Hill Street. It was time to storm in the rain 2 feet. She bricked it up with some fairy licks, a potted plant, a battered couch she got for the Sally Ann. A chap the end day as she was scraping paper in the hall, she opened the door to a voice saying, if you need anything at all, just ask. I'm Betty, and I stay through the wall. Two kindred spirits flung together, Betty for a daughter, Leanne for a mother. Leanne put out the wheelie bins, Betty broke them in. Betty cut the grass and Leanne raked it up, and she was done. Leanne hung out her washing, Betty watched out for the rain. Leanne went after work and Betty brought it in again. Leanne washed her windies, Betty swept the pads, Betty fed the birds and Leanne fed Betty's cats. Betty trimmed the hedge, Leanne shovelled snow. Leanne got a card at Christmas, signed for Betty through the wall. Leanne never let on when she heard Betty ranting. Betty just tut it when Leanne had been out gallivanting. Leanne never judged when Betty was 3 sheets to the wind. Betty would tell the provy woman that Leanne wasn't in. Leanne could sleep at night kenning Betty wasn't for a wobble. She couldn't help it. She could hear her snoring through the wall. Betty was a nippy sweetie, could lash folk with her caustic tongue. Leanne was canny at others. I had been, for she was young. If Beth had scars for the past, neither gied the game away. Betty didn't ask and Leanne didn't say. Sitting round the kitchen table, drinking tea, Leanne didn't gee her ginger when Betty spoke to folk that nobody else could see. Yin Monday night, like every yin before, Leanne lifted her fags and chapped Betty's door, opened it, called out Betty's name, waited for a retort, but the answer never came. Leanne went bed in the living room, a sense of dread in her belly. Betty was in her usual chair, her face lifted up with the telly. When the paramedics came, they asked, "Are you her daughter? Is this your ma?" She said, "No, I'm her neighbour, I'm Leanne, for through the wall." And when she phoned, they wouldn't tell her a thing. She was just a neighbour for through the wall. She wasn't next to kin. At first, Leanne tried to go on like a four, but it became real when the council come round, boarded up Betty's windies, put metal shutters on the door. Then the pain came rushing to the fore, memories like wolves knocking down the door. One drink became two, became three, became four, up till late, pacing up and down the floor. And when she woke in the wee hours, hugging her knees, listening to the wind howling in the eaves, she bit on her nails, chewed in her hair, imagining every creak was his footstep on the stair. The wind rattled through the letterbox, making the curtains blaw. Leanne was scared and all alone, and nae Betty through the wall. One day, Leanne pulled the curtain aside to see a car pulled up outside. A lassie taking a set of keys out her bag, opening the gate and walking up the pad. Leanne just stood there, a though soft ankle, wringing her horns, Betty's cat winding round her ankles. She didn't want to seem like the neighbour for hell, didn't want the lassie to think she couldn't keep herself to herself. Finning the courage, she opened the door and smiled for the hall. If you need anything at all, my name's Leanne, and I stay through the wall. Thank you.
That was really good. I really enjoyed that. In fact, of the ones of your work I've read so far, that is my favourite. I enjoyed that. Thank you. Now we're about to hear from Kate Thomson with her reply from the Lassies. As you may know, Kate is a retired senior police officer and holder of the Queen's Police Medal. She is a Dunhamer. Now, I understand there are some in our audience tonight from America and from elsewhere in the UK. So you might not understand that a Dunhamer means you're from Dumfries. Now, she's also been with us before in Burn Suppers, and I know that we will enjoy her contribution tonight. So, Druthi Cronies, I give you Kate Thomson.
Hello. Chairman, honoured guests, ladies and gentlemen. It falls to me, your allocated lassie for the evening, to take up the challenge of replying to Stephen's toast. And what a great toast it was. I'm sure you'll all agree that it was articulate, it was accomplished, it was witty and informative. As Stephen's toast finished, I was reminded of a famous quote by Marion Pearson, who said, "Behind every successful man is a surprised woman." So good evening from a very surprised woman. Now that a lassie has finally had a chance to reply to the laddies, a wee bit of friendly advice to my fellow presenters. Gents, a speech or toast should be like a woman's skirt, long enough to cover the subject matter and short enough to keep the audience interested. So folks, unlike Willie and Stephen's speeches tonight, which were a bit like a full-length skirt and train, you'll be delighted to know that my toast is like a mini skirt. Only the other day, Victoria Hasty purchased a map of the world and gave it to Stephen. Throw this, and wherever it lands, that's where I'm taking you when this pandemic ends. Turns out they're spending 2 weeks behind the fridge. They are, however, going on a wee trip postponed from 2020. Stephen and Victoria have been invited to a really fancy launch of the new and improved Viagra drug. The venue for this fantastic launch is the world famous casino at the Monte Carlo Casino, which has been the home to no fewer than 3 James Bond films. Victoria, if you can hear this at all, I'm afraid to tell you that even if Stephen does start taking Viagra, it sadly will not turn him into Daniel Craig, but it will make him Roger Moore. A passion of Burns was the demon drink, and Burns wrote, "The cock may crow, the day may daw, and I will taste the barley brie." Trevor Dykes, that I can just see sitting on my screen actually with Jill, was clearly feeling a bit nervous and has just texted me to say that since 2010 he's really cut down on the barley brie. Of course, now it's only about 2013, so the night is still young, Trevor.
That's good.
Now it's plain to see that men revere Scotland's famous son, the cultural icon. He's the bee's knees and a real man's man. Women, however, see him as a drunkard, a womanizer, a vagabond, and a scoundrel. But ladies, honestly, Willie Dick's not really that bad. Robert Burns is a name known worldwide, so I thought it would be good to look up the origins of his names. Well, history tells us the Normans brought the name Robert Burns to Scotland, and its translation means bright flame who lives by a stream, which is the perfect description of Burns, particularly when he lived at Ellisland. Looking into the guest names here tonight, the name Hastings has Latin origins and it translates to musician, and the name Claire has Norman origins and it translates as gifted. So Claire Hastings is a gifted museum. I don't think any of us would argue with that tonight. I also looked at our main speaker. The name Dick has Latin origins and translates as attractive and sexy, and the name William has Norman origins and means not very. I know our chairman, Dr. Iain Baker, is a very romantic man too, but age is catching up with him a wee bit. The other evening, his wife said, let's go upstairs and make love, and he says, okay, but you'll have to choose one because I can't do them both. Dr. Baker was telling me of a case when a guy came into the surgery. His symptoms were that he couldn't stop singing the green, green grass of home. Dr. Baker thought for a minute and diagnosed Tom Jones syndrome, and the guy asked, is it a common condition? And Dr. Baker replies, well, it's not unusual. My husband, I know it was bad, I can just see Stephen there. My husband John and I were blissfully happy for 21 years and then we met. And ladies, we all know how men can be a tad patronising, particularly when it comes to cars. Well, when we were first married, I phoned John one evening. I told him I was phoning from the foot of Bank Street in Dumfries and the car was out of action. What's wrong with it? He says. Well, I said, the points are damp. There's water leaking into the air fuel mixture and the carburettor's out of balance because the water has leaked into the manifold. He says, how on earth do you know of that? I said, because I'm sitting in the Nith. This year, the pandemic has affected all of our lives one way or another. And on another note, particularly about Christmas time, I heard a story about Gordon Lawson. Gordon called his son Graham in Glasgow on Christmas Eve and he says, I hate to ruin Christmas for you, but I'll have to tell you, your mother May and I are divorcing. 40 years of misery is enough for both of us. Graham says, Dad, what the hell are you talking about? Gordon says, we cannot stand the sight we cannot stand the sight of each other any longer. We're sick of each other. I'm sick of talking about this, so I'll leave it to you to call your brother Greg and tell him. Frantically, Graham calls Greg, who explodes on the phone. Greg says, like hell, they're getting divorced. I'll take care of this. He immediately calls Gordon and tells him, you are not getting divorced. Don't do a single thing until I'm there. I'm calling Graham back. We'll all be down tomorrow. Until then, do not do another thing. Do you hear me? And he hangs up. Gordon hangs up at his end and he turns to me and he says, well, that's sorted. They're coming for Christmas and they're paying their own way. Burns was a gifted man who was not afraid to work, unlike some of our gents in the audience tonight. Not long ago, Mary Jess asked Bobby to fix the flickering light in the hall of their house, to which he replies, do I have Scottish power written on my forehead? Well, could you fix the fridge door which is coming loose? Do I have Kevin Farish written on my forehead? Well, you could at least fix the front doorstep because it's really dangerous. Do I have Walsh written on my forehead? And off he heads with his pals for a wee illegal drink down the pub. Feeling guilty though, he returns an hour or so later and notices the front doorstep's been fixed. He puts the hall light on and it doesn't flicker. And when he opens the fridge to get a lager out of it, he notices the door's been fixed. He finds Mary and asks how she managed to sort out all the faults, and she told him that when you left, she says, I sat on the doorstep crying because I was really, really upset. And after a wee while, a handsome man, obviously no Willie Dick, passed by and asked why she was crying. He said he would fix all the faults. She would, however, have to choose how to pay him. She could make him a cake or go to bed with him. So Bobby says, what kind of cake did you bake him? Mary replied, does it look like I've got Mary Berry written on my forehead? Earlier today, I was talking to my sister-in-law, Helen Bond, who was telling me what a thoughtful and romantic husband Michael was. Like a few of you tonight, when I heard this, I was a wee bit surprised, but Helen went on to say that only this week he'd taken her out for tea and biscuits. She says it was lovely and it's the first time she's ever given blood. When I think of Burns and his faithful wife, Jean Armour, I am reminded how men can be distracted, lose their heads when in love with women, who tend to be a bit more sensible and pragmatic, just like a very young Rab Mitchell when he first proposed to Rosie. She replied, Rab, I love the simple things in life, but I'm not sure I want one of them as my husband. And on the matter of technology and men, Brian Hunter and Gordon Lawson are chatting the other day. And Brian says to Gordon, do you know, my elbow hurts and it's really keeping me and Linda up at night. I better go and see the doctor. Listen, says Gordon, don't waste your time going to surgery. There's a new diagnostic computer at Tesco's pharmacy. You just put in a urine sample. The computer will diagnose your condition and suggest treatments. Takes 10 seconds and costs £2. A lot quicker than the doctor, and you get club card points too. Brian takes his urine sample to Tesco, pops it in, his £2 in the computer, it lights up, pours the urine sample in, and waits 10 seconds. Later, the computer ejects a printout and it says you've got tennis elbow, soak your arm in warm water, avoid heavy activity, and it'll improve in 2 weeks. Well, we all ken how blooming difficult Brian can be because he hates anything that can beat him. So he decides he's going to try and fool the computer. So he mixes some tap water, he finds some dog's urine, finds some dog poo, he gives Linda's urine sample, and he finds a cat sample as well. And he mixes it all in and he puts in a little bit of, can I say diplomatically, a special deposit that only men can give. And he puts it in and he mixes it all in. Next day, he's back at Tesco's. He puts in his £2, the computer lights up, he puts this mixed concoction in and he awaits the result. The computer takes a little longer than expected, but after a wee while it ejects the printout. It says, your tap water's too hard, get a water softener. Your cat's having kittens, go to the vet. Your dog's got ringworm, bathe him in antifungal shampoo. Your wife's showing signs of insomnia, please buy her herbal sleeping tablets. And if you don't stop playing with yourself, your elbow will never get better. Thank you for shopping at Tesco's.
Oh, God. Yeah.
Just before I finish tonight and we reflect on the past year and look forward to 2021, I'm reminded of a quote by Albert Einstein: learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. So for 2021, may your troubles be less, your blessings more, and nothing but happiness come through your door. So Stephen, thank you again for such a brilliant toast. I can't comprehend this speech is almost at an end. The 50 minutes went past sky quick as our many topics we blast. But one good thing gives me cheer. It's someone else's turn next year. As the night is drawing in, let's take our glass to our chin. The toast is to the laddies dear. The laddies. Thank you.
Kate, thank you. Excellent as always. Very enjoyable. Now, Keith Shedden is our club president this year, and he's done an excellent job in these unusual times. In fact, he's done such a good job that we have recently voted unanimously to give him the task of doing it for another year. Sorry about that, Keith, but you are very good at it. Ladies and gentlemen, we are drawing towards the end of our evening, and I now call upon President Keith to give us the contributors.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you've all enjoyed this evening as much as I have. All our contributors have ensured that we've had that perfect Burns experience physically denied to us this year. It rolls to me as the current president to thank all our contributors. Firstly, I'm sure you would all like to thank TB Watson and Isle of Arran Distillers for sponsoring the Burns Malt. I hope you have enjoyed it tonight. If you could wait that long. If you liked it, have a look on Drambusters. You'll find it there, £31 today. My thanks to Tracy for her excellent renditions of her own poems. Did she describe your breeks? Thank you, Willie, for your incomparable Immortal Memory. You have a style of your own. Thank you, Stephen, for your toast to the lassies. It's nice to know that you know where the Anne's summer shop is. And Kate, your reply was very funny and very much enjoyed. I do always worry about how blue such contributions might be, but these were well within the bounds of our earshot. Can I also thank our Rotary Event Committee for all their hard work in arranging this evening, particularly to Stuart, our secretary, for guiding us through the complexities of Zoom. Iain, you've done a sterling job as MC, which we know involved lots of stressful moments, willing contributors to unmute themselves on time. Finally, thank you to Claire Hastings for her lovely singing. We've got one more to come. As is tradition at Rotary events, may I ask you to charge your glasses and join me in the loyal toast. Cool.
Thank you, Keith. Finally, everybody, it wouldn't be a Burns night without a rendition of our favourite song. And for this, you may unmute. So everybody can unmute now. And I would ask Claire to lead us in, of course, Line Sign.
Did all the I might start that again. I might start that again.
I think maybe everybody should mute again so we
Yeah,
can time along.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying, sadly, that's one of the downsides of Zoom, is that we're not able to join together. But thank you very much again for having me along this evening. It's been a pleasure spending the evening with you and a night away from the telly. And if anyone wants to hear a few more Burns songs from me, I'll be live on my Facebook page on Burns Night on the 25th at 8 o'clock. So feel free to pop along and have a sing along then. And of course, please join me at home on mute for Auld Lang Syne. Should old acquaintance be forgot and never brought to mind? Should old acquaintance be forgot and days Auld Lang Syne? For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup o' kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Now here's a hand, my trusty fear, and gie's a hand o' thine. We'll take a recht get willie walked for Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup o' kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. For Auld Lang Syne, my dear, for Auld Lang Syne, we'll take a cup o' kindness yet for Auld Lang Syne. Well done, everyone.